Hi, this is a presentation for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, titled Marketing Alliances, the Gaming Industry and Professional Sports, presented by Ernest Adams, Lynn Fedalizo, for MHA 639 Casino Marketing, under the direction of Professor Paul N. Pippin. Lynn and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you very much. Marketing and advertising in the gambling or gaming industry is as old as the industry itself. Stars like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and alliances with airlines like TWA and United Airlines were used to draw clientele out west to the city of sin. They would also advertise conferences and a general fun in the sun attitude where your ambitions could be put to the side and you could just enjoy yourself. Hotels such as the Sands, Stardust, and the Marina at the time are depicted here in some of their former advertisements. And now we'll take a look at the research article and explore the marketing and advertising strategies for the future with sports industry. Lynn and I chose Stephen M. McKelvey's work titled The Growth in Marketing Alliances Between U.S. Professional Sports and Legalized Gambling Entities. Are we putting sport consumers at risk? This is an examination of professional sports in the gambling, aka gaming industry in the United States. We found this article fascinating, especially since it was written in 2004. And further research we conducted brings us to current day and how the relationship and marketing strategies of both the gambling industry as well as the sports industry have come together and united for one common cause. The growth in marketing alliances between U.S. professional sport and legalized gambling entities. Are we putting sport consumers at risk? This was authored by the University of Massachusetts' Stephen M. McKelvey in 2004. At that time, legalized gambling had become a widely accepted form of entertainment. The landscape in Las Vegas had been changing dramatically with the addition of the mega resorts such as the Mirage as well as others. And tribal gaming had taken a significant foot in the 90s as well with the Foxwoods Resort Casino in Connecticut. At that time, there were concerns and benefits related to United States professional sports leagues as well as the gambling industry, as these two industries, for the purposes of marketing strategies, had begun to come together. This research paper examines those relationships and, again, some of the concerns and benefits, which we'll take you through now. Some of the concerns expressed by McKelvey in his research article result from the general perception of gambling in the past, which was cast as a socially undesirable and potentially harmful behavior. It was usually kept behind closed doors, but at this time, in the 90s and the early 2000s, gambling was becoming a more accepted form of entertainment. But the United States professional sports organizations were fearful that associations would impact the integrity of their product. The four major sports leagues, the National Football League, NFL, the Major League Baseball, MLB, the National Basketball Association, NBA, as well as the NHL, the National Hockey League. In 1992, commissioners of all these sports leagues testified at Congress in support of the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, or PASPA, which was a federal law that was passed that prohibited states from accepting wagering scheme on competitive games. The only exceptions for this were Nevada, Oregon, Delaware, and Montana, who were grandfathered because they had state regulations and laws that preceded the PASPA hearings. The National Basketball Association commissioner at the time, David Stern, testified, and I quote, "Sports betting places athletes in the game under suspicion, as normal incidents of the game give rise to unfounded speculation of game fixing and point shaving." At the time, Major League Baseball Commissioner Fay Vincent testified at hearing, "Protecting the integrity of gaming is our primary job. State-sponsored sport betting runs the real risk of undermining public confidence in the honesty of what transpires on the field. Needless to say, the commissioners and the leagues at the time were staunchly opposed to any influence or gambling associated with their respective leagues. There were concerns such as pathological and problem gambling, and frankly, overall, the risks and associations of gambling are inconsistent with the health and social benefit of sport consumption. So at that time, there was significant pushback and there was significant objection to any expansion of gaming or gambling across this country, specifically sports wagering, in the eyes of the big four professional sports in the United States. McKelvey went on to describe some benefits, more so on the gambling industry side, and he referred to them as LGEs, or licensed gambling entities. The first and foremost was just in alignment with professional sports. Professional sports was looked upon as a profession with integrity, generating significant revenue. They felt that at the time it would increase public awareness about gambling and its form of entertainment. This could influence public perception. It further legitimizes gambling by aligning itself with professional sports, which is an established and respected industry. In association with particular market segments that gambling had not reached but could reach under the relationship with professional sports. Professional sports is involved in the community, whether it's outreach or simply as role models of the community, and the gambling industry desired to align itself with that as well. Media benefits, obviously professional sports was in the media, it was being broadcast to millions of people on a daily basis for consumption. The gambling industry would like to align itself with that as well. And sales objectives, clearly the gambling industry looks to increase its revenue base and other ways to generate revenue. Some of the other mentions by McKelvey are perks for high rollers or whale players. Foxwoods Resort, for example, partnered with the Boston Celtics in the early 2000s and offered exclusive dinners with players. And to sum up, sponsorship within the sports setting serves to reinforce the notion that gambling is an acceptable form of entertainment. In order to legitimize itself as a form of entertainment, gambling in the industry wanted to align itself with a very well-established sports industry to do so. The early relationships between the gambling or gaming industry and professional sports were described by McKelvey in this research article, and those consisted of a NASCAR Nextel driver, Robbie Gordon, was sponsored by Harris Entertainment at the time. There were relationships with U.S. state lotteries, whereas NBA and WNBA logos could be used on certain items pushed by the lotteries. But as McKelvey stated, no form of licensed gambling entity involvement is more direct than team ownership. And this occurred in January of 2003 when the Mohegan Sun Resort and Casino in Connecticut and the WNBA, or Women's National Basketball Association, came to terms where the team in Orlando, Florida, called the Orlando Miracle, moved to Uncasville, Connecticut, and was purchased and owned by the Mohegan Sun tribe in their casino. They played at the Mohegan Sun Arena, where they currently play today, and this is feet off the gaming floor, where families are responding, going to the basketball game, only a mere few feet from the slot machines and the table games. Examining McKelvey's 2004 article and research, we decided to look at and examine the relationship between the gambling industry and sports industry throughout the years. This brought us to 2018, when PASPA, which was enacted in 1992 and supported by all the major sports leagues and their commissioners, was overturned by the Supreme Court. This was a 10-year court case put forth by the state of New Jersey. And during that 10 years, every professional sports league fought the legalization of sports betting. So they continued to support PASPA up until 2018 when it was overturned. In 2018, after the overturn, all the sports leagues began to fall in line and create relationships, marketing, advertising, and other relationships with the gambling industry. The relationship grew exponentially, which we're going to explain throughout this presentation in the field of marketing as well as advertisement.
Thank you, Ernie, for the introduction to our research as we look into the Gaming Industry and Professional Sports Marketing Alliance. Hello, class. I am Lynn Fedalizo. As Ernie mentioned, with the overturning of PASPA in 2018, there has been an exponential growth in the gaming market. In 2018, the American Gaming Association recorded a gross gaming revenue of $41.7 billion. The aggregation of slot gaming, table games, sports betting, and iGaming revenue is what we see here. In 2021, revenue increased by over $11 billion, totaling just under $53 billion. 2022 showed another increase of over $7 billion, totaling a gross gaming revenue of $60 billion. What is impressive about this is that compared to 2021 calendar year, sports betting revenue had a significant increase of 72%. As we see here, gaming revenue has steadily increased from the year 2000 at about $25 billion to $60 billion in 2022. Even with the COVID pandemic bringing businesses to a standstill for a few months, revenue did definitely drop. However, compared to the year 2000, recorded revenue was still higher. The next 3 slides we see will cover the latest data presented by Don Feeney as part of the National Survey on Gambling Attitudes and Gambling Experiences. The following chart shows the 14 most gambling activities surveyed. Leading at number 1 is the lottery at 66%, raffle at 41%, and we have slots and gaming machines at 32%. Card games come in at 23%, sport events at 20%, fantasy sports at 17%, and online wagering at 15%. Per the survey, at least 3 out of every 4 Americans, or 73%, reported betting on one of these 14 gambling types 12 months prior to the survey. Feeney also looked at the demographic age group that participated in gambling activities. The survey showed that gambling increases by age, with the highest age group being 45 to 54-year-olds at 81%. A steady decline can be seen starting with the next age group of 55 to 64-year-olds, and least likely to gamble out of this surveyed demographic is the 75 and older age group. When it comes to gender and gambling, males often outperform females by a larger margin. If we look at male-dominated gaming activities, we can see that over 55% of male participation, starting with pull tabs, then we have slots, cards, online gambling, fantasy sports, traditional sports, and dice games at 69%. When it comes to raffle, bingo, and lottery games, male and female participation is about equal in these areas.
Several types of gambling advertisement utilized by gaming companies. Video advertising such as television, YouTube, and other apps. Audio channels like radio and podcasts. Newspapers, print and digital publications. Out of home such as billboards. And digital out of home such as digital billboards. And social media such as Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, as well as in-app and in-game advertisements. these all became very valid with the sporting industry and the relationship with the gambling industry and their marketing and advertisement campaigns. The Big Four sports leagues, the National Football League, Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, and National Hockey League, will be explained further by Lynn as far as their viewership, annual revenues, demographics of their fan base, as well as total fan base, which will give further context as to why the gaming industry would want to align itself with the sports industry.
Thanks again, Ernie. Now, the first of the Big Four league we'll look at is the NFL. In 2022, the average viewership came in at 16.7 million per game, with a revenue of 18.6 billion. The viewer demographic data showed that 70% of American males and 53% of American females engaged with the NFL. 64% of those are aged 25 to 39, and 70% have a household income of over $100,000 a year. That is a total fan of 188.4 million. Now, compared with the NFL, Major League Baseball came in at only 96,000 average viewership per game and a total of 10.8 billion in revenue. Demographics show that 53% of U.S. residents ages 13 to 64 engaged with the MLB within the past year. 56% of engaged audiences are male, and most of the engaged group is between 35 to 54-year-olds. This is a total of 171 million fans. Now, the National Basketball Association did much better, with an average viewership of 1.5 million per game and 10 billion in revenue. Viewer demographic shows a good mix of 58% male, 42% females. 79% of them are aged 18 to 54, and 38% have an household income of over $100,000 a year. This is a total of 155 million fans. The last of the Big Four league is the National Hockey League. Coming in with an average viewership of 4.5 million per game and revenue of 5.7 billion, we see that the viewer demographic is 54% male, 33% female. It is the most popular among Americans ages 25 to 39. 54% have a household income of over $100,000 a year, and the National Hockey League carries about 136 million fans.
Thank you, Lynn. Now I'll explain the more specific relationship between the Big Four sports leagues and the gaming industry. First, the NFL partnered with Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel as sportsbook partners. They're also in agreement with Fox Bet, BetMGM, PointsBet, and then formerly WinBet, which has since gone out of business. Major League Baseball partnered with FanDuel as the official sports betting partner. The National Basketball Association partnered with DraftKings and FanDuel as co-official sports betting partners. And the National Hockey League partnered with FanDuel and BetMGM as North American sports betting partners. There's also additional partnerships by these leagues outside of North America in different countries. Examples are PointsBet, Betway, and Unibet, which is in Sweden. There are additional examples of these as well. The official terms of these agreements weren't available or very difficult to research. But gaming operators were provided with authorized branding, category destinations, exclusive rights to protected marks, exclusive rights to purchase prime advertisement slots, exclusive use of highlights in games, among other benefits in their partnerships with the leagues. Besides from gaming companies partnering with the leagues, there are also partnerships and agreements with individual teams under the leagues. For example, in the NFL, the Chicago Bears, official sportsbook partner is PointsBet, BetRivers, and they have an official sponsor casino, Rivers Casino. The New England Patriots have a corporate sponsor with DraftKings. Aristocrat Gaming, a gaming company manufacturer of slot machines, became an official partner of the team in Gillette Stadium just recently. The Minnesota Vikings have a relationship with Mystic Lake Casino Hotel, and the Las Vegas Raiders have a relationship with MGM Resorts, as well as the San Manuel Band of Mission Indian Casino conglomerate. The NFL only has 4 teams: the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers, and Atlanta Falcons, that don't currently have agreements or sponsorships with the gaming industry. Aside from Major League Baseball sponsorship and agreements, again, specific teams have their own agreements, sponsorships, and partnerships. For example, the Colorado Rockies are teamed up with DraftKings for their sportsbook, have a deal with Betfred, and one of their players outfield, Charlie Blackmon, is a brand ambassador with Maxibet. Milwaukee Brewers have a relationship with Potawatomi Hotel and Casino as an official sponsor. The New York Mets utilize Caesars as an official sportsbook, and the New York Yankees have relationships with Bet365, DraftKings, and FanDuel. There are only 3 Major League Baseball teams: Atlanta Braves, Kansas City Royals, and Tampa Bay Rays, that don't have an official partnership, agreement, or sponsorship with a gaming company. The NBA has their relationships, but under them, their teams also have relationships. For example, the Boston Celtics uses DraftKings as a sports betting partner. Chicago Bulls has a corporate partnership with Betway. The Chicago Bulls named Wind Creek Casino Chicago Southland as its official casino partner. The Detroit Pistons are partners with DraftKings and FanDuel. There are only 5 teams in the NBA: the Miami Heat, Minnesota Timberwolves, Orlando Magic, San Antonio Spurs, and Utah Jazz, that don't currently have a business relationship with the gaming industry. And finally, the NHL. Teams such as the Detroit Red Wings have a deal with FanDuel Casino and Sportsbook, as well as PointsBet. The New York Islanders have a relationship with Betway, Jackpocket, and the state-sanctioned New York Lottery. The Minnesota Wild have a corporate sponsorship with Treasure Island Resort and Casino, and the Los Angeles Kings have a sponsorship with Betway. Currently, there are only 2 teams, the Dallas Stars and Tampa Bay Lightning, that do not have an active relationship, sponsorship, or partnership with the gaming industry.
Now, with the successful gaming and sports partnership formations, fans can find sports wagering affiliates at their favorite stadium. Within just the past few years, we have seen the following partnerships established. At Progressive Field, Fanatics just opened August of 2023. Wrigley Field has DraftKings Sportsbook, and FedEx Field also has Fanatics Sportsbook. The Caesars Sportsbook is at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and Citi Field, while FanDuel is hosted at Audi Field and United Center. Continuing on, we have the BetMGM Sportsbook at State Farm Stadium and Nationals Park. We also have Caesars Sportsbook at Chase Field, FanDuel at Footprint Center, and William Hill, which is now part of Caesars, at the Caesars Sportsbook at Capital One Arena. Now, this one opened May of 2021, becoming the first sportsbook in U.S. professional sports facility. Another partnership we see is the Caesars Entertainment at Caesars Superdome, home of the NFL New Orleans Saints.
Thanks again, Lynn. We didn't want to forget the state-sanctioned lotteries, which have relationships with every sports league. And as you can see here, we have scratch tickets as the MLB's Houston Astros, Dallas Cowboys, the Boston Celtics of the NBA, Seattle Kraken of the NHL, New England Patriots of the NFL, Boston Bruins of the NHL, and the San Antonio Spurs of the NBA. All 4 major sports leagues have established relationships with different states to provide their brand on a state-sanctioned lottery ticket, as you can see here.
To promote the partnership between professional sports league and gaming, companies have to invest heavily in advertisement. Here we see that in 2022, as compared to 2021, there was an increase across several months for ad spend. More than 400 advertisers spent around $738 million for digital, print, and TV ads. According to Paulina Sawislak, out of the $738 million spent in ads, only $460 million of that was from 3 companies. These top 3 companies are DraftKings, Flutter Entertainment, and MGM Resorts International.
So the question is, why the partnerships, why the sponsorships, and why the agreements between the gaming industry and the professional sports industry in the United States and Canada? This marketing strategy is beneficial for both the professional sports leagues and the gaming operators. Gambling is now legal and regulated. Since PASPA was overturned, it became legal, and that's when the sports industry really jumped on board. Social acceptance of gambling. Gambling's never been more socially acceptable than it is today. As Lynn explained, the demographics from both the sports industry as well as the gambling industry almost overlap. They're looking at the same exact group of people. The leagues have established strict gambling policies within themselves to protect the integrity of the sport. They have oversight in each league for this cause. Both the gaming industry as well as the sports industry are now teaming up to combat and fund programs to combat problem gambling and disordered gambling. And the United States currently has relaxed regulations on advertisement related to legal gambling activities compared to other parts of the world, whereas in some parts of the world you can't even advertise for gambling activities. Those other reasons for the partnerships all make sense and are all important, but the number one reason is the revenue and the profitability. As we've learned in this class, profitability has to occur in the marketing strategies of the gaming industry as well as the sports industry. This partnership, these agreements, all equal massive, massive revenue, reaching different customer bases that maybe weren't reached before, expansion of their product, and at the end of the day, just bringing in significant revenue for the gaming as well as the sports industry. We found this fascinating as McKelvey's article explained the benefits and concerns and the pushback that the gaming industry was receiving from the sports industry, its commissioners, by way of congressional testimony, public perception, as well as other means. In 2018, this all changed with the overturn of PASPA. Shortly after the overturn of PASPA, the professional sports leagues, all 4 leagues in the United States, became closely aligned with the gaming industry, and this continues to grow to this day. As Lynn explained, they even have sports books in some of their stadiums. This is something that McKelvey probably would have never ever guessed when he authored his research article in 2004. The reason Lynn and I chose that research article is because it showed the perspective when McKelvey wrote the article in 2004, and then here we are approximately 19 years later, and we've completely changed course, and we are 180 degrees opposite of where we were back then. This industry will continue to grow, the partnerships will continue to grow, the agreements and sponsorships will continue to grow. So long as there's profitability involved, both sides will continue to grow, partner to increase and gain significant market share and profitability. This is Ernest Adams. Just want to thank you for joining Lynn and I for our presentation.
Hey guys, this is Lynn Fedalizo. Thank you again for watching our presentation, and it's been great to be in this class with you. Have a great day.